She wasn't just America's little sister from the hit sitcom What's Happening? Danielle Spencer was the child star whose megawatt smile could light up every living room in the country. But today, that light is gone, and fans are shattered. As news spreads that she's passed away at only 60, what truly happened in those haunting final days? And how did the girl we grew up loving survive battles no sitcom script could ever prepare her for? Don't blink, because what we've uncovered will change the way you remember her, forever. For millions glued to their TVs in the late 70s, Danielle Spencer wasn't just an actress. She was an icon. As the razor-sharp, quick-witted Dee Thomas on What's Happening, she owned every scene. But behind that laughter and applause, her real life was about to take twists far darker than anything a sitcom writer could dream up. From overnight stardom to crushing personal heartbreak, and even a rare, life-threatening illness, Danielle Spencer's life was a roller coaster of triumph, tragedy, and sheer, unshakable grit. Now, as friends, fans, and former co-stars mourn, we're peeling back the curtain on her extraordinary journey, the soaring highs, the gut-wrenching lows, and the untold moments that never made it to the screen. This isn't just the tale of a beloved TV icon. It's a gut-punch reminder that life can flip in an instant, and that even the faces who once lit up our lives can be fighting silent battles no one sees. And trust me, by the time we're done, you'll never look at Danielle Spencer the same way again. Her path to stardom kicked off when she was just a child, yet she radiated the poise and magnetism of a Hollywood veteran. Born in Trenton, New Jersey, Danielle's entry into showbiz wasn't by accident. Her father, Timmy Rogers, was a celebrated comedian and actor, and growing up in his world meant she learned the rules of the spotlight before most kids. Learned multiplication, but no one, not even her own family, could have guessed just how blinding that spotlight would get. In 1976, at just 11 years old, Danielle Spencer landed the role that would stamp her name into TV history, the sassy Dee Thomas on ABC's What's Happening. Loosely inspired by the 1975 film Cooley High, the sitcom followed three African-American teens navigating life, friendship, and growing pains in Los Angeles. As the sharp-tongued kid sister to Roger Raj Thomas, played by Ernest Thomas, Danielle wasn't just a supporting character, she was a scene stealer. With her whip-fast one-liners, savage comebacks, and a gift for delivering humor. Without breaking that deadpan face made her an instant legend. Fans didn't just see her as Raj's little sister. They saw her as the heartbeat of the show's comedy. Bold, quick, and utterly unshakable, Danielle Spencer owned her space, going toe-to-toe with veterans twice her age. The cast chemistry? Pure magic. Whether she was roasting Raj, clowning Dwayne Haywood Nelson for his latest disaster, or trading barbs with Rerun, the unforgettable Fred Berry, Danielle delivered a realness that audiences felt in their bones. Off camera, she was every bit as sharp and hilarious, but with a humility that kept her grounded in a world that eats child stars alive. She never let fame turn her into a headline, though she easily could have. What's Happening became more than just a sitcom. It was a cultural landmark, especially in the Black community, celebrated for showing a warm, relatable, and positive, groundbreaking portrayal of African-American life at a time when TV rarely got it right. As Dee, Danielle Spencer became the ultimate smart, no-nonsense little sister, the one every viewer either had or wished they did. The show thrived for 3 hit seasons from 1976 to 1979, and Danielle's character remained a fan favorite long after the final episode. Even decades later, she lived on through pop culture callbacks and nostalgic TV specials. But what most fans never knew was that Danielle's real life was far messier than the polished sitcom version. Away from the cameras, she was stepping into a storm of challenges and heartbreaks no level of TV fame could protect her from. And when What's Happening finally wrapped in 1979, Danielle Spencer was hit with the cold, hard truth every child star dreads. Harsh reality check of going from a household name to a world where fame doesn't guarantee your next script. Sure, she'd pop back up in the mid-1980s for the spin-off What's Happening Now, but Danielle Spencer's career path was anything but the straight-line Hollywood fairy tale people assumed. When the original run ended, she stood at a career crossroads. Casting directors admired her, but the industry's ugly habit of typecasting, especially for child stars tied to one iconic role, boxed her in. She was so linked to Dee Thomas that breaking free from that image was like breaking out of concrete. Instead of chasing roles that didn't fit or selling out her values for the spotlight, Danielle made a move that blindsided everyone. She walked away from acting completely. And in true Danielle Spencer fashion, she turned that exit into a power play, diving into higher education with the same determination and sharp wit that fans had always loved seeing in her on-screen alter. Ego. Danielle Spencer headed to the University of California, trading scripts for textbooks and earning a degree in veterinary medicine, a career light years from TV studios and laugh tracks. Her passion for animals was the real deal, and stepping into the role of veterinarian gave her a deep, lasting fulfillment Hollywood never could. Specializing in small animals, she eventually launched her own practice in California, pouring herself into caring for pets and bonding with clients, many of whom had no clue their vet was once a TV icon. But stability didn't mean immunity from life's blows. At the height of her fame in 1977, she was in a devastating car accident that left her with permanent spinal injuries. Though she pushed through and kept acting at the time, the physical toll would shadow her for decades. And years later, those old injuries came back swinging, sparking major health battles that forced Danielle Spencer to slow down, sometimes even step away from the veterinary work she loved. Yet through it all, she carried herself with quiet strength. No tabloid sob stories, no pity grabs, just a relentless focus on moving forward. She juggled her career with community work, showing up at fan conventions, cast reunions, and interviews, always meeting nostalgia for what's happening, with grace and humor. Fans loved her honesty, humility, and the down-to-earth vibe that had been part of her DNA since childhood. But life wasn't done throwing curveballs. Even with her hard-earned unshakable pain from those teenage injuries eventually backed her into a corner, one that would demand a life-changing surgery in adulthood. And it was in these years that Danielle Spencer truly grasped how fragile health is, how unpredictable life can be, and how resilience isn't optional. It's survival. This chapter also brought deep emotional blows. Friends and colleagues from her Hollywood days began passing, including beloved What's Happening co-stars, each loss hammering home how quickly both fame and life can fade. The grief hit hard, but instead of breaking her, it fueled her determination to live fully and fiercely protect the relationships that mattered most. By the time the 2000s rolled in, her story had become a rare blend of triumph and quiet battle. A woman who had conquered TV as a child, built a second career saving lives in a completely different world, and stared down health crises with unshakable courage. But the years ahead still had twists waiting. Some, both inspiring and devastating, the kind that would forever cement how fans remembered her. In these later chapters, Danielle Spencer proved her greatest role wasn't Dee Thomas. It was being herself. Her life became a tightrope walk between the joy of pursuing her passions and the relentless shadow of health issues that refused to fade. That spinal injury from the 1977 car wreck, the one she'd buried in the back of her mind while still young, came roaring back, demanding attention she could no longer brush aside. By the early 2000s, the damage had snowballed into chronic pain and serious mobility problems. Her body was now cashing in the debt from decades of powering through the pain. And when doctors finally weighed in, the warning was chilling. Without immediate intervention came with the crushing possibility that she could lose her ability to walk. Staring down that reality, Danielle Spencer made the gut-wrenching choice to undergo major spinal surgery, a gamble packed with equal parts risk and hope. Recovery was brutal and slow. For a woman who had spent her adult life pouring herself into others, from saving pets in her clinic to warmly embracing fans still devoted to her, being forced to hit pause was maddening. But she tackled it, with the same steady grit that had carried her through every other battle. In later interviews, she admitted the ordeal taught her to treasure even the tiniest wins, whether it was walking unassisted or stepping back into work in any form. Still, the physical fight was only half the story. The emotional blows of losing dear friends kept coming. One by one, What's Happening? Castmates passed away, and each loss washed over her with equal parts nostalgia and heartbreak. These weren't just coworkers. They were family from the most defining years of her life, and their absence left a hollow space she carried with her. At reunions and fan events, Danielle Spencer spoke of them with warmth and reverence, keeping their spirits alive for the audiences who still treasured the show. Then, in 2014, tragedy came knocking yet again, this time in the form of a breast cancer diagnosis. The news blindsided fans who still pictured her as the sharp-tongued, unstoppable Dee Thomas, and who admired her remarkable second act as a veterinarian. But Danielle went public, not for pity, but to urge others to take their health seriously and get screened. She endured the treatments, fought like hell, and emerged cancer-free, carrying with her an even deeper awareness of just how fragile life really is. Through every storm, Danielle Spencer stayed as present as her body would allow, showing up at conventions, greeting fans with that same spark, and giving interviews that honored what's happening's enduring legacy. Her gift was in blending. Her TV icon passed with an everyday, grounded charm that made people love her even more. But in recent years, the battles grew heavier. The lingering damage from her spinal injuries and multiple surgeries kept chipping away at her mobility. Rumors swirled of more operations and grueling rehab sessions in her later life. Yet she faced it all with the same grace and grit that had defined her from the start. And then, the blow fans never wanted to hear. Danielle Spencer was gone. The announcement ripped through, shockwaves through fans, former co-stars, and the entire entertainment world. For many, it felt like a piece of their own childhood had been ripped away. Social media flooded with tributes, from people who grew up racing to the TV to watch her toss razor-sharp one-liners at Raj and Rerun, to those who'd met her years later at conventions or in her veterinary clinic, where her warmth was just as real. Her passing wasn't just the loss of a child star. It was the loss of a woman who had lived not one, but multiple lives, each stamped with perseverance, reinvention, and unshakable strength. She was a trailblazer as a young Black actress on a hit network sitcom, a devoted veterinarian who poured her heart into her patients, and a survivor who fought and won against life's harshest storms. In the end, Danielle Spencer's legacy wasn't just childhood fame. It was the total sum of her courage in the face of pain, her compassion for others, and her gift for embracing every twist in her life with unshakable grace. Her legacy will live on, not just in endless reruns of what's happening, but in the countless human and animal lives she touched. And for the millions who grew up with Dee Thomas, losing Danielle Spencer will always feel like saying goodbye to a piece of home. Hers was one of those rare stories that managed to be both extraordinary and deeply human. She wasn't just a familiar face from TV's golden age. She was a woman who endured more than most could fathom, yet never let go of her quiet dignity, from her very first moment in the spotlight to her last day on this earth. And for many, the first image that will forever flash in their minds is Dee Thomas, the sharp-tongued, quick-witted little sister from What's Happening, whose razor-sharp tongue and sassy comebacks could freeze Raj mid-sentence. Dee wasn't just comic relief, she was a cultural statement. At a time when TV rarely offered authentic, layered portrayals of young Black girls, Danielle Spencer gave us someone smart, self-assured, and unapologetically real. Kids saw themselves in her. Parents saw their own daughters in the way she playfully, but fiercely went toe-to-toe with her big brother. She became the voice for a generation of girls learning it was okay to be outspoken, to have a mind of their own, and to hold their ground. But what made her journey even more extraordinary was what came after the cameras shut off. Unlike so many child stars who stumbled trying to find life beyond Hollywood, she rewrote the script completely. She hit the books, earned her veterinary degree, and poured her heart into caring for animals, a career that, in her own words, gave her a deep and lasting sense of purpose. It wasn't a flashy, tabloid-grabbing pivot. It was a choice born from passion and empathy, a quiet but powerful reminder that success wears many faces. Still, her life was no fairy tale. The spinal injury from her teens, the relentless health complications that followed, and her fierce fight against breast cancer were battles that could have broken anyone. Yet Danielle Spencer never let those storms steal her smile or her instinct to connect. She turned her struggles into fuel, speaking openly about them to inspire others walking similar paths. Her honesty transformed her from a nostalgic TV icon into a living, breathing source of hope. Even in her later years, she stood as a bridge between generations. For older fans, she was a living time capsule of TV history, the face who once filled their childhood living rooms with laughter. For younger viewers discovering what's happening, through reruns or streaming, she was a brand new revelation, living proof that great characters and unforgettable performances never age. So when the news of her passing hit, it wasn't just longtime fans who grieved. Former co-stars, fellow actors, and even complete strangers, whose pets she'd lovingly treated, shared in the loss. People told stories of meeting her at fan conventions, how she remembered their names years later, how she slowed down to really talk instead of rushing through a signature. In an industry slammed for its shallowness, Danielle Spencer was the real deal. Her death doesn't just close a chapter in television history. It feels like losing a dear friend. Was part of a show that didn't just make people laugh. It mirrored real family bonds, real friendships, and real humor. That series wove itself into people's lives, and so did she. The emptiness her absence leaves is proof of just how deeply she touched hearts. Danielle Spencer's legacy is built on resilience, reinvention, and a quiet kind of heroism. She proved you can dazzle in the spotlight, walk away on your own terms, and still build a life that matters. She reminded the world that fame will never outrank the joy of doing work with purpose, and that the truest legacy is to be remembered for kindness just as much as talent, long after the cameras stop rolling. Her spirit lives on in every rerun of What's Happening that sparks new laughter, in every animal whose life she helped save, and in the memories of the countless people who crossed her path. Danielle Spencer wasn't just etched into television history, she was woven into people's personal histories, and that's a legacy far richer than ratings or awards. For those who grew up with her, seeing Dee Thomas on the screen will now come with a bittersweet pang, but also an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Gratitude that we got to know her. Gratitude for the laughter she delivered. Gratitude for the way she showed us how to live with courage and grace. Danielle Spencer may have left this world, but the echo of her voice, the spark of her wit, the warmth of her compassion, those will never fade. She will forever remind us that the brightest stars aren't just the ones lighting up TV screens, but the ones that keep shining in our hearts long after the final spotlight goes dark.